and welcome to the Crash Happy Podcast. Lewis Hamilton creates his own track around Singapore, while George Russell wins the race pretty easily. Joining myself this week, it is, well, pretty much everyone. It is Mr. V, Dan No Skill, Not Applicable, and Formula Duck. How is everyone doing? James, how are you doing? How was the Singapore Grand Prix for you, actually?
Yeah, very good. I like that all five of us is pretty much all of us. Like, this is it. This is all of us.
Just in case, just in case.
This is everyone. You know, like, Arabs come on 1 week. I miss one podcast record. I'm out. Arabs in.
Yeah, you've been replaced. Like, you're struck off the company. We've got someone else involved now. Like, sorry, James. But yeah, how was the Singapore Grand Prix for you then? Because I know you stream it live for your viewers. Like, what were your thoughts on the race?
It was a long one. It's a long one indeed. Yeah. Like, a little bit behind the screen, I guess. Like, when the Grand Prix is so lacking of anything, it's pretty hard to talk for an hour and a half about absolutely nothing. So I was quite happy when, like, right at the beginning, real good. Right at the end, Lewis Hamilton made it quite entertaining. But yeah, it was a lot of taking questions and seeing what happens.
Dan, actually, let's not talk about this. Dan, before the Grand Prix started, long before that, you had a night out before the Singapore Grand Prix.
Was it in Singapore?
Well, no, it relates to the Singapore Grand Prix because it was on Saturday. So after qualifying, before the Grand Prix, night out, go into a nice little club. Well, no, not a club, like a club night thing, playing some music that I like. And anyway, as it sort of goes, get back home just before 6 a.m. So I set my alarm, ready to wake up for the F1 the next day. I love the F1. It's my job. It's what I do. Ignore the title there. I'm not just a poop inspector. I also like watching race cars.
You realise that's not on the video. Like, no one can see that.
No one's seen that.
It's just in the recording.
Just outed yourself.
Guys, don't worry about it.
For anyone wondering, Dan has set his name as Poop Inspector in the software we use to record.
As you can tell, I'm very mature on this podcast.
Someone's got to do it. Like, you can tell a lot about someone's, general health. Check for blood, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, had this night out. Woke up and I was looking forward to the Grand Prix, but I had a banging headache and I was a bit tired. And my God, it was a strain not to just go back to sleep during that race. Not only was the racing terrible and we got about 4 overtakes, the 4 overtakes we did have, the TV director thought they weren't worth showing and instead gave us Carlos Sainz's girlfriend for about half an hour. So I don't know your opinions on that, but I would like to hear because the TV direction was horrible this weekend.
TV direction is like one big thing, like that was a big issue in Singapore. Like when nothing happens in the Grand Prix and you've got 4 or 5 overtakes, like you said, just please at least show them. Like you said in that Grand Prix, like the Antonelli overtake on Leclerc, they showed it very briefly in like the tiny box, and it wasn't until 15 laps later they actually showed the overtake. I was like, you've got to do a better job than that. Like, Mr. V, you're someone who knows a lot more about TV direction and stuff. Like, what's your thoughts on stuff like that? Like, in a Grand Prix where it's pretty boring, like, how can they do better? Like, showing actual racing.
They could do literally anything else as well. They could do better. I do think. I mean, obviously, like, TV direction has been a discussion in F1 for a while. Like, it's not like it's just bad in Singapore. Like, it's quite often bad. They obviously try and focus on the people at the front and stories of like a title battle, but like you've got Lando Norris behind Max. He's not getting past him on most tracks, let alone in Singapore. So like he's still there. I don't need to see that every single lap. But what I find crazy, like we saw the picture-in-picture of Antonelli coming up on the back of Leclerc. Why does that take so long to show that? Normally at least you'd see it a lap later. I don't know why they were coming through so late. I don't know about you guys. I was watching the Sky coverage. They were showing replays so late it was confusing the commentators as to what they were seeing a replay of, like, because they've never seen them like come that many laps later.
Yeah, well, it doesn't take much to confuse Crofty though. Like, let's be honest.
No, fair. But to be fair, like I've also like live streamed events and stuff and like live streamed races. as soon as you start talking, your brain switches off like a load of bits. So like you have no idea what's happening if like you're also trying to speak at the same time. It's tough. But yeah, stuff as well. Like Lewis Hamilton has literally got his brakes on fire for the last 2 laps, and we don't see any of it. We see him dropping down like 30 seconds a lap off the back of Leclerc and potentially being caught by Alonso, which they knew was happening. This was like a 3-lap development. That wasn't like just spontaneous right at the end of the last lap. Like any kind of race director should have known that was going on. We could have easily cut to that once Russell's crossed the line, like, or at least once Verstappen has crossed the line, because then there's no more story of him and Norris fighting. But no, it just stayed on Russell doing his like victory lap. It's just crazy. So yeah, I don't know, the F1 media team, I don't know who's directing these things, but they need a meeting with HR, potentially a short sabbatical.
I can do better because all right, and this is.
I think you can.
But I've done it. So I've hosted
I'm not
like
sure.
no, I've hosted live streams. And I have been the commentator / TV director, albeit in Assetto Corsa, clicking through the things. The way I do it, very simple. Like anyone under a second gets shown, and if there's multiple people under a second, whoever is the highest up in the order gets shown. So if there's a battle for 3rd, that'll get priority over a battle for 16th.
But sadly, that's what they were doing, because Norris was within a second of Verstappen, and so they continued
you
to
can
show
tell
it.
as well, because if you're watching it for a minute and Norris is like not getting any closer, and you realise they need to be within 4/10 for an overtake to happen, and then Alonso was within 3/10 of someone else, you then go to Alonso, show that overtake, and then go back to the Norris one. Because F1, unlike the events I've done, F1 has liberties of doing replays. So if you miss something, it's not the end of the world. You can show it later on.
Yeah, that's one thing they missed, actually. Like, through the midfield, like, my favourite driver, Carlos Sainz, even Fernando, like, they had, like, periods where they were coming through the field, pulling off overtake after overtake. There wasn't many overtakes, but they were doing them, and they just did not show them. Like, Dan, you're a big Fernando fan. Like, you missed him coming through the field. Like, that's sort of thing that you're missing out on, that you need to, like, see. Like, when nothing else is happening, like, yeah, just show the few overtakes, like. And Fernando was. Well, should we talk about Fernando actually, Dan? What's your thoughts on Fernando Alonso from the Singapore Grand Prix and his team radio antics?
As always, Fernando Alonso was absolutely impeccable. I mean, this was just absolute cinema on his end. He provided us with entertainment through his funny antics on the radio. He provided us with great racing. He just showed why still at 444, however old he is, he's still the best driver on the grid, and I'll have no other words on that.
Yeah, I mean, you did get driver of the day. He managed to get driver of the day. He got he asked for it.
He said he wants his little trophy. He begged for his little trophy. He was like, come on, give it to me, guys.
Give me the position.
I'm very happy all of you guys, well, specifically just Dan, is like happy about, Fernando doing well. If you haven't noticed, I haven't spoken a word because all of my mind is this goddamn dreaded team that I'm sure you know who I'm speaking of. And I just want to quickly say I'm very happy for you, Dan. Very happy that you're happy.
There's a couple caps behind you on the shelf, mate. Lost love.
Very, very happy you guys are happy. Those caps might be going away soon, but yeah, I'm just very terribly sad.
You need a driver, mate. Get yourself like a Bortoletto to root for every weekend, because he might not do well all the time, but then if Ferrari are in the shitter, you can go, well, at least Bortoletto was all right.
My driver left last year. I was a Checo fan along with the Ferrari fan. Hey, he is back next year.
Wait, you're actually, so can I ask, you're genuinely a Checo fan? I thought that was like a myth.
What? They don't exist.
No, I'm genuinely serious, but like, I this is very sincere. Can I ask, like, what endears him to you?
Well, mainly his nationality, I mean, I'm Mexican, he's Mexican, right? But even aside from that, I think my biggest red flag as a racing fan is, I don't want to use this word, but I love dirty racing. I love hard racing. And, Checo, I wouldn't call him like the dirtiest racer on the grid, but, he did have his moments, and that just kind of made me gravitate to him. Plus, I mean, mainly the nationality. Come on. There's no other Mexican driver on the grid. All you Brits have 4 Brits on the grid. Come on.
I don't like any of them though.
You don't like Ollie? You're not interested in Ollie?
I don't root for the British drivers. Like, I don't even like the British teams.
You would not know that Ollie Bevan was British if you hear him talking enough.
Oh yeah, is he
like
more Italian?
With a name like Behrman?
Yeah, he lived in Italy for ages.
Yeah.
Well, also all the kids who come up through the karting scene, like there's like all these European kids will like mush together and they spend all their time together, so they all get this like weird, like mixed European accent. Like he has the same accent as loads of other kids who are like Dutch or Swedish or German. Like they all sound the same. They sound like mostly British, but with a weird like sort of international school twang to it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like at least George's probably the only one, the Brit that really doesn't sound. He's as British as could be. Is little George Russell. And speaking of George Russell, he dominated. Like I don't think there's any other way to put it. He won very, very easily. And James, like he's still not contracted for next year. Like what's your thoughts on that situation now? Where like what's the main issue with like George not being signed up for next year with Mercedes?
I mean, in a word, Max Verstappen, right? That's the only thing that is stopping him from having a contract. If Max Verstappen said at the end of the year he's going to retire and he's out of it, Mercedes would sign George Russell up for as long as they possibly could, because I think at the moment he's the second best driver on the grid, and the only reason he's not getting a contract is because they're really hoping that they can get the first best driver on the grid. Like, it's a very, very interesting situation Mercedes are putting themselves in. Like, they're putting quite a lot of eggs in the Max Verstappen basket, but I think they're also playing on the fact that George Russell, if they can't get Max, then George will probably stick around long enough. I think the only thing that's playing into George's favour is he's continuing to deliver. He's continuing to be the second best driver on the grid. And, you know, wins like this and wins in Canada, he's kind of showing to the team, look, I'm doing everything that I possibly can. I'm getting everything out of this car. I can't do any more than that. I'd imagine behind the scenes, it's all about, first of all, the salary that he's going to get, but secondly, how long that contract is going to be, right? I'm imagining Toto Wolff is trying to get maybe a 1+1 where if Max Verstappen is available, he can send George Russell in a different direction, whereas George Russell, quite rightly so, is probably seeing, you know, drivers of a similar caliber at big teams. Piastri's on a long contract, Norris is on a long contract, Leclerc's on a long contract, and George was probably going, well, how come I'm not getting the same as these other drivers that I'm competing with every week? How come I'm not getting a contract that is comparable to theirs? Like, George is still probably one of the lower paid compared to, like, Norris got his update, Piastri got an update recently, and therefore George is just thinking, well, I deserve what they're getting because I'm actually doing better than they are most weekends.
I think it's just that. Yeah. But I was going to say, like, I actually don't think it has anything to do with Max Verstappen. Like, yeah, Mercedes will take him if they can, but like people have this discussion, they'll kick out George and then have Verstappen and Antonelli. It's like, are you mental? Like,
yeah,
Russell and Verstappen are clearly number one and number two in terms of performance in the sport right now. Like, yeah, people talk about, oh, Toto Wolff had a hard time when they had Rosberg and Hamilton. So, and what? Like, obviously you'd still want to take them because you can manage that and it might be kind of tough internally, but you're still going to dominate every single race if you've got a good car. So I don't think it really matters what Max does. And Max is not going there next year. So, like, you're needing to get George. So, yeah, maybe they're discussing contract length. But I think it's purely on pay. Like, George Russell, coming with receipts that he is the only person anywhere close to Verstappen in terms of performance. Like, Norris is not doing it. Piastri's a bit better than Norris, but he's not way up there. Like, maybe you can make an argument for someone like Leclerc or like Albon, but still... Sorry, Dan, I'm going to have to move on. But, like, Russell's the second best, and, like, Max Verstappen's getting paid some ludicrous amount, like 70 million euros a year, whereas Russell's getting, like, 15. So he's like, okay, I should be getting at least the second highest salary in the sport. But also, if you remember, it's super important for him now because having a high salary kind of guarantees a continued high salary. Like, Daniel Ricciardo had a mental salary, particularly when he went to Renault because he came off like the peak of his Red Bull career. Enormous, like 35 mil, something like that. And then he continued to command that high salary, even at McLaren. He was still getting paid like 20 something, still close to like 30 mil a year. So like if George Russell signs a big one now, like 40, 50 mil a year, he's set for the rest of his career. Like if he makes any moves, if Mercedes do boot him out, if they do like a swap and he goes to Red Bull in exchange for Verstappen, he's going to guarantee himself a bonus 20 mil per year for the rest of his career. So I think it's purely that.
And it's a fairly short career as well. Like we forget sports people have to earn basically all of their money within 15, 20 years. Like absolute maximum.
George is already 27.
Yeah.
So like, he's maybe got 10 years left, but it's not 30. It's not 30, 40 years. It's 10. And, a big injury could make that 4. So,
I think length has a little bit to do with it as well. Like you said, James, like something about a 1+1. I don't think George will want a 1+1. So I think he's seeking longer term, especially if it's true that the rumors are true that Mercedes are going to have some inherent advantage next year. Like, you want to be tied down to that team that's gonna win, and win possibly quite a lot, like they did from 14 to 16. And for George Russell, if he's got that, and then at the end of that term they still go, we want Max, well, at least George has won like 7, 8, 8, 9 races a year potentially, won maybe a world championship, and then his stock value is even higher. And then whoever wants to take him afterwards, be that Ferrari, Cadillac, Audi, whoever wants to throw the book at him, he's got that value of I'm a world champion, I've won X amount of races with Mercedes, you've got to pay me some big money now to take me from whoever that may be. I think
also with George, with Mercedes, and as you say, going into 2026, they're looking like they might have an advantage going into it. But also, you've got to remember George was hoping to go into that Mercedes, say, in 2020 and 2021, but he had to then set that aside. And by the time he got into Mercedes, we've hit this Mercedes downturn in form. So he had to sit at Williams for a couple of extra years where he would have probably, and most people wanted to see him inside of that Mercedes car. We got a glimpse of it when he took that place for Lewis Hamilton for a race. But he would have thought to himself, okay, at least I'm going into Mercedes and maybe I'll win some races or be in a championship contending car. And he's gone to Mercedes just as they've fallen off the cliff and just as they're no longer fighting for championships. So he's also probably got that in the back of his head. If I was in that Mercedes in 2021, I know it was Max versus Hamilton, but could George have maybe been in that conversation? Probably not. But he'll have that in his mind of, I came to Mercedes just as they started moving in a downward spiral and just as I missed out on probably quite a few wins had I been at Mercedes rather than at Williams for a season.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of joining Mercedes quite early in their career, his teammate Kimi Antonelli, we'll talk about him real quick, because Antonelli's had, I don't know about you guys, but Antonelli for me has been pretty impressive the last couple of weekends.
No.
You don't think so? You don't think he's had an improved performance over the last couple of races?
Yes, it's improved. It's not impressive though.
No, but it's
how many seconds was he behind Russell at the end of the race?
Actually, I don't know. Quite a few, I imagine. Yeah, too many.
I agree with you, Mr. V, but in Singapore, because Baku, he out-qualified Russell again, didn't he? Yep. Albeit a very ill George Russell, and then proceeded to finish behind him in the race.
Yeah.
But Singapore, it's his first Singapore. It's the most demanding race of the season. If there's any one where he's going to be off him, that's fair enough. I agree, though. I don't think he's had an amazing season. I think he's just got back to where he should have been.
Yeah.
He's turning it around. I completely agree that he is getting better. He had some flashes early season. We had Canada was good. I want to say, God, where was it? Where he qualified in pole for the sprint?
Miami.
Oh, Miami.
Yeah, that whole weekend looked fantastic for him. He was topping practice all throughout Friday. So he had flashes, and then he went into a slump. I think basically he went to Imola and he's got to do good in my home race, and then it put him in a huge downward spiral for 4 months. So he's shaking that off and he's getting better, but I still think he's too far off Russell. It's the same as having Verstappen as a teammate, or almost as bad as that. because Russell is formidable and he is super consistent. But you gotta be closer than this. You gotta be closer than this.
Do you think he would have been better in a lower team? Like, I still think he should have been in Formula 2 for another year. But if he was to come to F1, do you think he'd have been better placed in, say, Williams or something like that? Like,
I think Antonelli Williams and then Sainz in Mercedes would have been like a dream scenario for this year for kind of everyone involved. Yeah. I don't think he's been impressive, and I will now. I've my time.
A whole video on this, so I've recently researched all the Antonelli stuff, and as much as I agree, like, oh, maybe we should have left him in thingy or whatever, I think Toto Wolff sort of shot himself in the foot because he kept banging on about how good Antonelli was. If he leaves him anywhere else for another year, someone will snap him up. My guess would have been Alpine. They'd probably just go, look, we'll give you a seat. Come to us now. You can be in Formula 1 a year earlier. Or if he was at Williams, and they signed Sainz wanted a 2-year contract, so Toto Wolff wouldn't have been able to sign Sainz unless he offered him 2 years.
Just boot him out.
Yeah, but
Ferrari just kick him out.
Fair enough. But even so, and also the other point I had in that video was Kimi Antonelli. The bare minimum for him was a podium, if not wins. When Hadjar got a podium, he could have finished this season without it, and everyone would have gone, this is a brilliant season from Hadjar. Him getting it only, increases how good he is, whereas Antonelli not getting them and not getting wins, decreases people's sort of perception of him. So there's a lot of pressure on him compared to the rest of the rookies, which is why I'd cut him a little bit of slack.
Yeah,
completely
we also
agree.
forget just, how young he is. I looked at it the other day, and if he wins the championship in 2029, so it'd be his 5th season in F1, he'd still be the youngest Formula 1 champion there has ever been. So, he's so young.
Jesus, James, why'd you have to say that?
He turned 19 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Look,
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Going back to the thing we said previously about, how I should support a driver, if I'm being honest, Antonelli is the driver I support the most because, listen, I have been, looking at his career.
He's the only one younger than you.
Well, it's actually funny you say that because I also kind of like Behrman as well for being the same birth year as me. But I have been an Antonelli truther since 2021. So I've seen this guy from his F4 days, his Freca days, to now. I agree. This year he hasn't been that impressive, but that's also partially because Toto, which is kind of being impatient, I would say, sign Sainz for 2 years at Mercedes, right? Make him experience 2026 and then just yank him off the ship. Bring Antonelli in because at this point, whatever team he's at, Antonelli would be better. He would have a better understanding of F1 machinery without the pressure. Look at Bortoleto, for example. Imagine if Bortoleto was at McLaren right now. Bortoleto would be having a much worse season than Antonelli.
Drivers' champion as a rookie. Easy.
Yeah.
What? Come on. But
I actually kind of back that. Genuinely. Bortoletto's real deal, man.
Yeah, but did you actually see F3 in 2023 or 24? 23?
Not F3. I don't ever watch F3. No. But I saw him in F2, man. He was impressive. It was close. It was close with him and Hadjar. And to be honest, neither of them were golden child status. That was a scrappy championship, and both of them were making too many mistakes, to be honest. But Bortoletto had the same junior career as Antonelli. They both had those flashes of kind of prodigy status.
But
and I think certainly this year Bortoletto has been a lot more impressive than Antonelli. I think Bortoletto is in contention for best rookie this year. It's hard to pick. Obviously, Hadjar's been the most visible. But Bortoletto's been doing bits in an absolute trash vehicle.
I agree. But to me, Antonelli is still the more talented one because I could totally see Antonelli 4 years from now, if, next year isn't so bad, being kind of like Max from that era of 2018 to 2020, where he was there, if Lewis messed up in the race and Bottas was nowhere, it would be him taking the win. I could totally see that with Antonelli in the coming years. Let's say, Russell has an engine failure or is just spun out or whatever, and then whoever is the next leading car, whoever that may be, they have problems too. I could totally see Antonelli doing it. But like I feel like saying that like Antonelli is overrated is a little bit much. Like, it's his first year. He's 18 at a top team. Like, it was always going to go bad for him is basically my point.
Yeah, Toto basically set him up to fail.
Exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Not to fail, but to like look. No, yeah, probably fail. Yeah, that's basically my whole point now.
Next year should be good for him, though, because you've got to think it's a big reset. Like, Russell has had since 2022 in Mercedes in this era of cars. Antonelli's getting launched into them for his first year this year. But next year, both him and Russell will be on an equal playing field, as in neither of them have driven the 2026 cars before. So kind of like, you could honestly draw comparisons to 2007 with Hamilton and Alonso, where like Alonso really wasn't used to the car and the new tires, so it made them a lot closer and sort of negated that more extra experience he had. I think the same thing could happen with Antonelli and Russell, especially as Antonelli gets a season under his belt and fine-tunes his driving a little bit.
I like how you managed to still bring it back to Alonso, by the way, Dan. That's pretty good. Like, well done. Well done.
It was the only sort of, it was the best comparison you could bring.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
No, but Antonelli, his strong suits, he is extremely fast. Extremely fast, right?
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
No, well...
No. I am agreeing with you, and I think like I still agree that he has maybe the highest potential, and I think you do have to chase that as like a team principal, as a driver manager, because like there's tons and tons of drivers. Like basically anyone in Formula 2 has most people in Formula 2 have the skills to go into a Formula 1 car and put in like a decent, consistent season. Like they can qualify close to their teammate, blah blah blah. But like to have that opportunity to have those like star power, like crazy races, I think there's very few people who have that. I think Anthony does have that. He's been sorry, Doug, you might just turn on. I think Anthony does have that. He's just trying to find it. One thing I will say, because you say I don't think he's overrated anymore. I think at the start of the season he was overrated because he was bigged up so much by Toto Wolff and the rest of the Mercedes team, and actually the entirety of Formula One media were talking about him as some kind of like next Max Verstappen. I do think Mercedes has done a good job this year of controlling the narrative and really just like calming people's expectations, and they basically just like shut up about Antonelli entirely. Like there's times when you would kind of forget that he even drives for that team. Like they've said so little about him to try and take the pressure off him, which I think has really helped like coming into the second half of the season. So yeah, I think he is set up to continue improving for the next few years and could be a great driver. Yeah. But currently he's not doing well enough to... No.
They've definitely taken the pressure off, though. As you say, like, Mercedes could have easily been like a pressure cooker situation, and they've done the opposite of what you get at Red Bull. Like, Red Bull, you're doing bad at Red Bull, they don't stop talking about you. Whereas, like, even at Mercedes, where Antonelli had that dip, as you say, it almost felt like they just always talked about George Russell. And everybody kind of forgot about Kimi Antonelli, which I think is...
Helmut does a great job of just throwing everyone under the bus soon. It's like someone does it and goes, that guy's not good enough, get him out.
Kimi, drive the car faster, Kimi.
Speaking of Red Bull, Max Verstappen beats McLaren once again, James. Like... It's happened now, 3 races in a row. This is the race where he was going to lose to McLaren. He's beaten them again. Is he going to do it? Is he going to make all of us happy and take the title away from McLaren drivers?
Whoa.
Well, look, let's be honest. Most of us want him to win the championship at this point.
No.
Yeah, you don't.
4. He's won 4.
Yeah, he's got enough.
He's got enough, but McLaren are fumbling, all right? The drivers are fumbling. I'd rather someone else wins it.
It's not our fault that we've got this Nepo baby kid in a Red Bull car that's built for him. Like, we can't.
I genuinely thought you were talking about Lando Norris when you said Nepo baby.
I know.
No, I think again, I'm just gonna give myself reinforcement. I still think Max is too far away from winning the championship. It would be obscene if he went on to win the championship. Like, not just from this point, but if you look at like how far behind he was at the summer break, Like, it would be ridiculous for him to be able to gain that advantage. I know he's just won 2 Grand Prix and then followed that up with a 2nd place, as you said, ahead of the 2 McLarens. But I think the 2 McLaren cars were so dominant earlier on in the year. It's not so much a championship battle. It's more, well, bringing up Lando Norris, the fact that Max Verstappen now seemingly just wants to make sure Lando Norris doesn't win the championship. Like, the way he was talking this weekend. I think, yeah, Max is just going to be an utter nuisance for the 2 McLaren cars. And, you know, a lot of us, I remember us a couple of weeks ago, like, doing the maths of how many 1st places to 2nd places Norris needed to Piastri. And now they're not even finishing 1-2 or even close to 1-2 most weekends. So a lot of that maths is completely out of the window. And that's because Max Verstappen, and to be fair, George Russell this weekend, are doing a brilliant job. But no, Max is not going to win the title.
Yeah, look, realistically, I don't think he is actually going to win it. I was just saying that to wind you up a little bit.
He could get 2nd, though. Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah. I think there's a decent chance he could win it. Imagine if we were talking about this with 6 races to go in 2007, talking about like Kimi Räikkönen was like, he's not gonna win the title. He was at the time he was like 40 points behind, and there was only like 12 for a win or 10 for a win.
Is it not the same percentage at the moment that Kimi had? Yeah,
it is similar. Well, so Max is 63 behind. We got 6 weekends, so he needs 10.5 per weekend over Piastri, and also like to stay ahead of Lando.
Don't forget the sprints.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 2 sprint weekends. So you know, if it's something crazy, like if they finish Max, Lando, Oscar every weekend, I think Max is the champion. That shouldn't happen. Like, McLaren certainly should win in Qatar. And there's going to be some other stuff
gonna make me wait until the penultimate race of the season.
I think it will go that far. But like,
Jesus.
McLaren are fumbling, and they're going to continue to fumble. What have we got next? Like the USA?
Texas.
I could perfectly see them doing some stupid shit there.
And then after that, it's Mexico with a very long straight where the cars reach a very high top speed, which McLaren definitely never does. And then after that, it's Vegas. We've got, it's Interlagos, where Max is a beast. And then it's Vegas, where, again, you need a high top speed. McLaren never reach a high top speed. And also, it's a night race, and it's going to be cold. And, all right, Mercedes will probably win that. But there's actually a few races coming up where McLaren might not do quite so well as they should. So it could be squeaky bum time for them, like in the drivers. But they are now the Constructors champions after winning it at Singapore. So finally, Mr. V, can they take the gloves off? Can they now race each other? Are we going to ditch papaya rules?
The rules mean nothing. But it's going to be no change. It's going to be no change. I am a firm believer that there is some kind of like Norris conspiracy, because it's not the same. It is not the same when Norris is ahead compared to when Piastri is ahead. Like, the things they ask him to do are different. I don't like any of these discussion of like papaya rules don't crash into your teammate. It's like, what? No one chooses to drive into another car. It's just dumb. Like, I'm sure this weekend that Norris had no intention of hitting Oscar going around turn 3 in Singapore. So, like, to say, like, oh, don't crash into your teammate is, like, a ludicrous thing to say. It's like saying, oh, don't crash into the wall. Thanks, Zach. Never would have thought of that one. So, yeah, I think nothing's going to change. I could see them doing some stupid shit, particularly if somehow Norris gets ahead in the driver's standings and we go into Abu Dhabi with Norris leading. I could see McLaren pulling some shit. And in that scenario, if I was Oscar Piastri, I would T-bone Norris's car. I would kill him on track. Just like, prove the point.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Oscar deserves it, man. Oscar's been screwed over by that team too many times. Like, yeah, there's times when, like, they made Lando let Oscar through in Hungary last year, but that was last year. It's different. Like, this year, the favoritism has been massively on Norris's side. I'd like You don't agree? You don't
No,
agree, Dan?
I don't agree precisely because of the stuff you're mentioning. Like Hungary 2024, there was.
But that was last year.
But there was
different
much.
year.
Lando was in with a chance of the title that year, and Oscar wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
He was points wise.
But
like,
he was this many points behind on Max Verstappen.
Yes.
Like Max Verstappen being this many points behind on a mere mortal.
But
is
you have to
doable.
back your driver. If there's a chance, you have to go for it. Like that's my point. And that's when they should have been making Oscar move out of the way. And this year, I think they've made stupid decisions. I think Italy was absolutely stupid. But I genuinely believe Zak Brown does want to give both of them a chance to win the title. Otherwise, in my opinion, Oscar would never have led the championship. There wouldn't have been that opportunity. They would have put the engine power down in his car. They would have done something that they wouldn't have had an equal opportunity. So I can't agree with the fact that Lando is the favorited one. I think neither of them are. I just think both sets of fans like to push the narrative that the other is favorited
Neither
by
driver's
McLaren.
the favourite. They hate them both. It does seem like that sometimes, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the Dutch Grand Prix, fucking hell, Zach was fuming that Piastri won for some reason.
I think they've put themselves in this awkward situation. Like from a McLaren perspective, I think they've almost become championship contenders before they were expecting to, because they would, they talked a big game when, Max was winning the championship, and they were like, well, yeah, that's fine, but at least we've got two really strong drivers. And that was always their selling point. They were like, we don't have a number one, we have two strong drivers. And now it's kind of come home to roost. Now they've got a championship winning car, and they almost probably wish they didn't have two really strong drivers and a clear number one, number two, because they do have to keep going through this rigmarole and going through the papaya rules and answering these questions. Like, even though they've just won the championship back-to-back years, the thing that we are most interested in, and the thing that the narrative is around, is the battle between the two drivers into turn 3, and then Oscar Piastri not being involved in the celebrations on the podium, which was
he had to go back to the media pen. That's the rules.
I know,
No,
he has to
he
go back
does,
to the
he
media
does.
pen, but
That's
it was just like even the Oscar Piastri power move, which by the way I absolutely loved. Like, I'm gutted I haven't had more opportunities to do this in my life to people that I just don't want to be on the phone to. But when Zak Brown is over the radio and he just pulls the wheel out of the car, exquisite power move from Oscar Piastri there. Like, the amount of times I've been on the phone to someone and I've just been like, nah. Like, just the beauty of that from Oscar Piastri.
Do you think Piastri's starting to think a little bit that the team are favouring Lando, though? Do you think Oscar's starting to think that a little bit?
I think he was more just pissed at the fact that it was like him this time around that lost out, and he almost is probably feeling like, as you say, since the summer break in particular, he's been the driver that's lost out more often than not. I know that Lando has kind of had pit stops not go his way and engine failures not go his way, but things where the team are like directly involved, it's often Oscar Piastri who's the one who is missing out or losing out to his teammate.
And you know what I hope for, like as a consequence of that Piastri just straight up goes bonkers on McLaren, on Lando, on everybody. Because like I made a McLaren video like a couple of weeks ago at this point, basically after Monza, where I looked at all the incidents from this season about like who's favoring who, and like my conclusion was that it's like they're not really favoring anybody on purpose. It's really just coincidence that like Norris is always on the receiving end. But like Lando, he has had his moments go against him. Anyways, my conclusion was that McLaren are just completely incompetent when it comes to winning a championship, managing it, whatever, right? So I hope that Piastri finally wakes up and just like stops playing nice with them and actually treats Lando as a competitor and, looking after himself. Because in that same video, looking back at all the races, Piastri, I used to hold the belief that like he wasn't overrated, but he's like kind of like being like basically overrated, but like still good. But after watching like his races, now I'm like, hold on, he's actually really good, because his overtaking game is extreme. Like some of the best overtakes this season has been from Piastri. And we obviously know that he's very fast. He could manage the race well. So I just hope that like when we touch down in Coda and like Lando's in front of him, I want Oscar to just shove him off the road or maybe a little bit more cleaner, but like just like dupe him or something. I don't know. Like
I think it will come down to that. Like, ultimately, you can talk about team rules and stuff, but if we come down to Abu Dhabi and they're separated by like 3 points, all gloves are off. If it's the last few laps of that race, neither of them are going to care what the team thinks. Like, a driver's championship is forever. Like, yeah, you might get, like, the team might be annoyed at you if you, like, run him deep, or you pull, like, a Max Verstappen and then you force your way up the inside of the apex to, like, play the rules. Like, yeah, that's not following papaya rules, but, like, a championship's a championship, and so all gloves will be off, like, whenever it comes down to truly deciding this championship. And I think it will get spicy, because I think both of them could lose their cool quite easily. What I hope doesn't happen is, and what I could see happening is, it comes down to like a close points race in like Abu Dhabi, and then like fucking Norris spins off on lap 4 and it's just out the race. I really hope it doesn't end with like a wet like a whimper, like
yeah. That's the thing, we want it to be dramatic. As you say though, I think all gloves are off from now to an extent. I think the team will try.
I think it's a couple more races until.
Do you think? I think
they're far enough apart on points as well, where Norris can't justify like sending it on Piastri, let's say, because potentially, like, there's always a potential you come off worse. Like, he could do the Max Verstappen thing. Let's say literally like Verstappen did to Norris in Kota last year. He could try a move like that, but there's always a chance you tear off your own front wheel. For example, Norris in Canada. So there's always a chance it backfires. Norris is too far behind in points, because if he has one more DNF, he's gone. Like, he can't win it if Piastri like finishes on the podium. So he has to be more careful. And obviously Oscar has no reason to do a move like that. But if it comes down to particularly Abu Dhabi, then it's crazy time.
Sorry. I actually want to do the other half of it. I want to defend the McLaren management of this, because it is so easy to have a Formula One team and have a number 1 and a number 2. And if we did have that at McLaren, let's say Lando was the number 1, Oscar was the number 2, this championship would not be as interesting as it has been. Yes, Max Verstappen might play more of a role, maybe, but it would probably be a lot clearer one driver in the lead. And throughout McLaren's history, they have always been a team that lets the drivers fight for the championship. As mentioned before, 2007, go back to Senna and Prost times, they always let those two fight. And it brought us some of the most memorable Formula One seasons. They are fan favourites. And I respect Zach Brown for allowing that to continue, for allowing that to be McLaren's heritage, for letting them be the one team that goes, our drivers can fight for a title, even if it puts them at risk. And I don't like this narrative of people saying, oh, you know, they should manage it and do team orders and this and that, and they're being messy with it. That's not the point. The point is they're giving the drivers the opportunity, something no other team in Formula One I could ever see doing. And yes, they've made mistakes with it, and yes, some of the papaya rules are fucking bullshit, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have that and a proper fight between teammates than have a 1-2 boring championship. So that's my piece.
I agree. I think it's happened. I think we have had, like, let's say the two number ones a couple of times. Let's say Mercedes 2014 to 2016. That wasn't, either of them were number 1. I mean, if anything, really, like when Hamilton joined, it kind of would have been Rosberg number 1. Like, he had been there since the team was formed out of Brawn. I will ask you, Dan, do you think it was completely equal in 2007? Because,
no.
like, yeah, exactly. So I think there's always
Hamilton.
been a little bit of a bias.
Yeah. But that was Ron Dennis, though. I think he's a very Englishman and would like an English world champion and the youngest sort of world rookie champion and everything. It's a lot of records he wanted, and I can see why. But Alonso was never out of it. And then in terms of Mercedes, that was a whole different circumstance because the two sides of the garage were against each other. They'd known Rosberg so long. A lot of people within Mercedes were rooting for him, whereas I never see Mercedes ever doing that again. It was just those very specific circumstances. They let that happen.
I think it can happen again. I think it just kind of forms naturally if a team has two drivers who step up. Like,
yeah.
Let's say next year, Red Bull take Hadjar, and also Red Bull like absolutely nail these regulations. Like, it's a tall order, but if Hadjar steps up and he just starts like being right there for Verstappen on track and sometimes ahead of Verstappen on track, we will get the same situation again. We will get a 2016 again. Like, I think actually lots of time this is dictated by the drivers. Like, teams kind of fall into a number one, number two when they clearly have a number one, number two, when they have one driver who just always finishes ahead. And then it's easy to say, like, then no team is picking a number one driver who is slower than the number two driver, because then you just swap. You just wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think actually it comes from the drivers, and like it just happens to be the case that McLaren has had a lot of times in its history when their two drivers have been equal. You know, early 90s, around the time of the millennium, 2007. You can even talk about like the Button Hamilton era. They were like pretty similar. Let's not forget that Button was like quite a long way ahead of Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship in 2011.
Yeah.
Even Coulthard
I think it's just coincidence that McLaren has had these stories.
So, but it's interesting. It's McLaren more than the others. That's kind of my point of view. It's something Zach Brown.
They're just a good team who's been at the top of the sport a long time.
Yeah, but Red Bull have always kind of had, even 2010, you look at Mark Webber and he was very aware that despite outperforming Vettel for most of that year, he was the number two driver.
But that's what I'm saying, like, but actually 2010 Red Bull is kind of the same thing as 2007 McLaren. Like, on paper, they didn't have a number one. If anything, it was Webber number one coming into the season. Obviously, like, Vettel was the golden child. Like, he had come in and he had won in a Toro Rosso. But, like, Webber was the established guy. And he was rapid as well. Let's not think, like, Webber wasn't like a Bottas. Like, he was a race winner. So, like, that was exactly the same as McLaren 2007. I think people they just know about the McLaren ones more. Like, we have had lots of scenarios where both the drivers and the team are very equally matched, but it's just coincidence when they also are in the number one team. It just doesn't come up that often.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. It's kind of coincided with McLaren being the top team. And that's why I said earlier, I think McLaren almost became the top team before they were expecting to. Because, you know, you look at other teams, like when Verstappen and Ricciardo were in the Red Bull together.
They were close.
There was very, very close between the two of them. Had they been the championship winning team that year, had Mercedes not been there, we would be talking about that as like a two-driver championship where they probably went all the way to the end and down to the line against one another, because it was, you know, a much younger Max Verstappen and a very informed Daniel Ricciardo at that point. So, as you say, you also have to line up when the team hits that championship kind of height. I think the other thing with this, though, and go into sort of Vettel being the golden child and Hamilton being the sort of main driver at McLaren that they wanted to win that season, I think just Lando Norris being at McLaren since this generation kind of started, you know, since Zach Brown has kind of taken over, Lando Norris was his pick as a young driver to come into the team. And you know, they tried to keep hold of Carlos Sainz, but ended up losing him to Ferrari. So Lando's kind of been that driver for them, and Lando's taken them through this entire journey. Where I know Piastri's been there 3 years, but it's just not quite the same, the relationship, I'd imagine, between Lando Norris and the team and Oscar Piastri and the team. And it's not really Oscar Piastri's fault. Like, he is just younger and came into the sport later. But that's probably why also, you know, we do see Lando Norris and Zach Brown have an incredibly close relationship, but they've been friends for longer and they've worked together for longer. So that's also playing into it.
I think Oscar just doesn't like golf. I will, but actually one serious point on that I would like to throw in that I think is actually worth discussing is that, like, Oscar Piastri is a popular driver, sure, but like Lando Norris sells merchandise. I think we shouldn't understate just how profitable a Lando Norris Drivers' Championship would be for McLaren. Like, they'll sell like a lot of Drivers' Championship merch either way, but like Lando has his own stands at Silverstone. Lando has his own range of merchandise outside of the McLaren shop and his own range of merchandise in the McLaren shop. He's got like all these other ventures. He is arguably the most popular driver in the sport in terms of numbers on social media. Like, him winning the championship is worth so much money to McLaren, and they will be considering that. And so I think there's one more thing just to like bear in the back of your mind if you think it's completely equal, because, you know, it's a racing team, but it's also a business. And you got these two things on paper, one that earns you $12 million and one that earns you like $48 million. It's hard to pick the one that earns you less, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I was about to say, I do agree with your point as well. Like, Lando has been there since Zach took over, so he has been his golden child for like that amount of time. I like to say, Mr. V, like he is the person that generates so much money for that team. I actually agree like that with that you know they would rather they won't out and out say it, but they would rather Lando win the championship for that reason. It's just, it makes good business sense, and ultimately that is what F1 is. It's a business first, a sport second, entertainment. Actually, no, it wants to be an entertainment second, but it is still sport second and entertainment third. So yeah, for McLaren, it does just make sense for that. Speaking of entertainment, we did talk about Singapore Grand Prix, and not much really happened during the race. We're a few years now into the new track layout. Dan, do you think the circuit change was for the better, or do you prefer the old layout where there was a few more corners, the one that James is very nicely showing off, where there was more challenge and there was more chance of safety cars because there was a higher chance of incidents? Do you prefer the old layout to the new one?
It's not a layout problem. It's what we talked about last time. It's just the cars are too big and no one overtakes. And you don't, unless you're actually trying to overtake someone, which was when we saw the majority of close calls, you don't actually have to push that hard because you have to do tyre management the whole race and everything. So it's all the stuff we've already covered like an episode or two ago about how it's a car problem, not a track problem. You could put the Singapore sling back in, and I guarantee you that the race this year would still have been pretty boring. Maybe someone would have got launched into outer space, probably in qualifying though, not the race.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Mr. V, you're someone who likes to talk about corners of circuits. What's your thoughts on that?
I used to like it. No, I agree. Like the track is the track, and actually the new layout and the old layout are very similar. I think removing the grandstand section was probably for the best overall. Like if you use a lower formula car, then I think the new layout is probably better. Yeah, car's too big. Yep. Like Singapore would bang in any car earlier than about 2010. Honestly,
Yeah.
It would go hard. I imagine Singapore with like 1950s Formula One machinery and like flinging it past those walls when they got the steering wheel like a boat, and they're just like hanging out the cockpit. You just go like flying into the bay.
3
Maybe
minute
we should
light
find out
times.
one day on a set of course of what that's like.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's write that idea.
Let's get that down. Get it down.
Yeah, make the car smaller, and when I say smaller, I mean like much smaller than the 2026 regulations. Like cut them in half.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah. Getting back to 2008 sizes.
No,
there was...
1992.
Oh, that, yeah. Duck, I wanted to talk to you about Ferrari, because I know Mr. V doesn't want to talk about Ferrari at all, so if he wants, he can leave now.
No, they were interesting this week, but let's talk to Doug.
Lewis Hamilton. Talk to us. What was going on with Sir Lewis during that Singapore Grand Prix?
No words. I mean, even for like 90% of the race, like I find it very ironic his brakes like blew up and went on fire, considering for 90% of the race he was on lift and coast. Like the problem with Ferrari is everything. Like even when things are going wrong,
What a quote.
they get worse. Like I have no words, to be honest. Like I've reached the point where like I'm mentally like putting them out of the grid. Like there's only 18 cars on track. Like it's getting very bad with me.
I mean, to be fair, Charles Leclerc said the same thing after the race.
I actually had a clip on TikTok, and it was every time Charles Leclerc got asked to lift and coast, and it was from lap 6 all the way to the end he was getting. I would have like I would have got enraged as well. I would shut the fuck up. I'm going to blow these brakes up if you don't tell me to lift and coast.
It's a complete joke at this point with this team, like where it's at right now. It's completely unacceptable. And now I'm just like wondering, like, let's say theoretically in 2026 Ferrari, are not the best, but like are extremely competitive otherwise. Like, would they be competitive would they? Because we know Leclerc is fantastic. We know Lewis is fantastic. But is the team like competent enough to win a title? I don't think so anymore. It's completely gone from leadership up from John Elkann to Fred Vasseur. Like, everybody is just keeping this horrible system intact instead of trying to replace it. They're trying to put Band-Aids on it instead of trying to, I don't know, like actually heal it. It's ridiculous. I'm like losing my sanity over it. So I'll just leave it there.
What happened? Because 2024 was strong. What do you think's changed? Arguably, I think 2024 was the best we've seen Ferrari in terms of being... Sorry, I hit my mic there. In terms of being together as a team, putting together half-decent strategies and actually being reasonably competitive, it's the best we've seen them in a long time. What's changed this year?
The car. I mean, the leadership problems were still present last year. I mean, nothing's really changed. It's just the car. Like, we had a good car at the end of 2024, and then Vasseur's like, all right, we're bringing Hamilton in. Let's change the car. Like, what was that necessary, though? Because even if Lewis didn't like the car, like, it's still only 1 year, and at least Charles would be able to do something with it, as we saw. Or maybe not, because towards the end of the year last year, Charles kind of didn't like the car anymore. But that's beside the point. Like, really, when it comes to performance in Ferrari of, like, 1 year is good, 1 year is bad, the only thing that really changes is the car. Because, like I said, it's all leadership. Leadership wants Ferrari to be like this when it's so completely the wrong way to do something. I just hope for Ferrari's sake that in the next years, people like John Elkann can leave. The current Ferrari CEO can leave. Like, while they may have done some good at some point in time, right now, it is horrible. It is embarrassing.
Yeah,
Enough
they can't get the floor right. They can't get the brakes right. They can't get a great deal right at the minute.
But Duck, on the car, do you think that they've actually taken a step backwards trying to change things for Lewis, or do you think basically they've just done nothing and been overtaken by
No,
other teams?
I mean, either way, they still go backwards. I mean,
Well, yeah.
like, I don't know. It was just unnecessary to do any of this. Like, even signing Lewis, in my opinion. Like, I love Lewis Hamilton, for the record, but like, was signing him necessary? You're just doing it for like the Ferrari aura, you know? Because, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Sainz, right? But I can acknowledge that he did good things at the team, you know? It would have been much more worthwhile to just keep Sainz and, you know, just move along with it, you know? By the way, no, I don't think Sainz is a bad driver. Okay, just please relax.
Please keep it going. But yeah, I think that is like a big thing. I think Ferrari this year, like you said, they made some changes unnecessarily. And then it kind of gets to a point where once you've gone down that route, you've kind of gone to a point of no return. And they did that, and it's screwed them up so much. They've had to do so much lift and coast this year. Like, Charles in every single race is told, lift and coast, back off, brake 100 meters, lift off 100 meters before you brake, do whatever, save the floor, save the tires, save the brakes. It's pretty ridiculous that they can't get that right. And then obviously Lewis's brakes exploded, quite literally. And I want to talk about that. Does anyone else think Lewis was a bit lucky to only get a 5-second penalty for basically designing his own track?
I don't think he should get any penalty.
Yeah, I was
Well, what was he
so
meant to
glad
do?
you said that.
No, he should have got... I've seen the onboard. He should have got a penalty, but 5 seconds... He cut the track like the 5-second amount of time, so the actual penalty is fine, but he definitely should have got one, because if you look at the onboard, he's not doing it because he can't brake. He's doing it because he wants to maintain speed and stay ahead of the people behind him. He's clearly going through the corners the way he is.
He's like sending it through the corners.
Yeah, he could have lifted off more, gone a bit slower, and taken a slower line. So he definitely deserved a penalty, but 5 seconds is fine.
Yeah, fair. I was actually going to say the opposite. I thought he should have got a bit harsher. And the only reason I say that is because in all of the corners where you couldn't cut the corner, he made it. He made every single corner that you couldn't cut. If he wasn't going to make it, he'd have hit the wall. If there was grass and gravel on those chicanes, where he could cut, he wouldn't have cut those corners. He'd have slowed down enough to make the corner. I sort of thought back to Russell in Monaco, where he cut the corner to overtake Albon. It's actually the same thing. Like, Albon cut that corner. Sorry, not Albon. Russell cut that corner to overtake Albon and bugger off because he was sick of being stuck behind him. Well, Hamilton cut those corners to stay ahead of Fernando so that he didn't get overtaken by Fernando. And apparently by the last lap, he said that he had a feeling that his brakes were coming back because mysteriously on the last lap, he all of a sudden made all the corners again. So, yeah, I was very surprised that he only got 5. That's the only reason I think he should have got more. If it was a situation where, like, you know, you want to say, yeah, the brakes are gone and I can't stop the car, well, you wouldn't have made those corners, like I said, where you don't have a choice but make the corner. He'd have gone off down the escape road.
In my opinion, you have two options there, really, don't you? You retire the car because you can't make it round the track, or you make it round the track as slowly as is safe to do so within the track limits. For example, Lewis Hamilton, British Grand Prix on 3 tyres. He went slower, kept it in the track limits, made it round.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It was also only one lap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. It wasn't like multiple like it was in Singapore. Also, like, you know, there was the situation with, like, Perez, like, last year, was it? Where he binned it in Canada and he got done for driving an unsafe car. Like, surely a car that's got a brake that's exploded is unsafe. Like,
I disagree, actually.
Oh, that's fair.
Because, like, how do you quantify how much brake you're meant to have? Like, he had some brake.
Yeah.
Obviously, cars have stronger brakes than others. Like, you can't draw a line there, so...
Yeah,
he had some brakes. It's not like his throttle was stuck on.
His whole thing was like broken at the back, and he had a wheel hanging off.
Yeah.
It's a bit different to a
The whole
okay.
point of like driving a car in an unsafe condition is basically, is anything going to fly off and hit someone else? That's when you have to retire. But like, we've had people lap Monaco for 50 laps with no gearbox, or
that's true.
Drivers have their gear shift stick fall off back in the day when it was a stick. And they would have to like cut their hands. Like, didn't Senna like tear his hand to pieces just like grabbing onto the actual like fucking spindle? I think that stuff is fine. Like, if your car becomes harder to drive, that's just a challenge for the driver. You just can't chuck debris at someone else. That's when you have to retire. So I think let them go with no brakes. Personally, it's just it's character building.
I agree with that. My whole point was you either do it in the track limits or you don't do it at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Honestly, I don't care. Ferrari continues to have boring issues. Like, that was quite funny, but still. Like, the whole Singapore Grand Prix, I was not in the mood to watch any more coverage of it.
I just don't think we need more regulations, as you say. Like, if they were going to go into it and put a regulation in place for like how much brake disc you need to have, like, we've already got a lot of regulations. Like, Williams got a double DNF or double disqualification after qualifying. Like, we already have enough regulations to go through. Yeah. They don't need to keep adding more and more on. Yeah. So,
by the way, I do agree with that. Like, I do actually agree with that. I do actually agree with that. It was just, my only point was the
cutting the corners was insane.
Cutting corners, like making your own track up, and you make all the corners where you don't have a choice but making it. It's
why you got to use gravel.
Yeah,
everything should just be gravel.
Bring back the grassy gravel.
Yeah. He wouldn't have done it if it was gravel.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
In a perfect world, you'd have white line gravel. Just every single track.
Yeah. Lava. Have lava on the side of the track. Then that would really deter them.
Yeah, in Monaco, just get rid of the wall. Like, have them go into the ocean if they mess up like they used to back in the day. It would be perfectly fine.
Get rid of the buildings.
I can recommend a version of Monaco to you, designed by some very talented people.
Is that not going to be a potential video you should subscribe to see?
But yeah, that was all. Like, all I want to say like on that with Lewis was just I think he should have got a worse one just because of his actions around the track. Like, could have been.
What should it have been?
A little bit different. I think it should have been a drive-through if you wanted to go off of what George
3 more years signed at Ferrari.
3 more years.
No, that's too harsh, man. Because George's one was an intentional like bad faith overtake. Like, he knew what he was doing. He was going to get ahead and take the 5 second. So that was unsporting. I think Lewis's was just, it's not unsporting. It's just kind of taking the piss.
That is. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But yeah, that was all like my thoughts were on that. And then Charles, we don't need to talk about that. We'll just move on.
Leave poor Charles alone.
He did all right.
He's got enough depression.
He was fine.
He's just trying out there. Yeah, so I don't know if there's really anything else to talk about from Singapore. Has anyone got anything else from Singapore that they want to talk about? Because I can't really think of
I just
anything.
want to say it's really nice that as a Ferrari and Alonso fan, I can choose to ignore them when Alonso does well and they do shit and just pretend I've had a really great time watching the race. Because seeing you two this depressed makes me glad Ferrari's not the only thing I'm riding my hopes on these days.
Why do you think I'm wearing the black shirt today? Things are very grim, very dark today.
I go into the trenches. I'm going for the Ferrari top today, and I don't know why I did. I shouldn't have done that. Mistakes are made. But Dan, do you want to talk about our non-existent Patreon for the
Guys,
end of the podcast?
The non-existent Patreon has just got even better. It now has full hour-long cinematic like video of a little rubber duck with a Ferrari hat floating in a bathtub. Okay, and that's the whole thing. And occasionally Mr. V walks in and throws bread to it, and it just kind of then the tub gets more filled with bread the longer it goes on. So check beneath the description of this video. Maybe the Patreon exists.
Not in the description.
No, beneath it. Just dig down.
Yeah.
Maybe the non-existent Patreon actually exists this week. Maybe this is the one. Maybe I'm not lying to you anymore. Who knows?
Dan, you do realise that, like, I'm going to write down every single one of these things that you say, and eventually, if there ever is a Patreon, you're going to have to put together all of these pieces of content.
So the first one
unless
is...
you keep saying that I'm doing it.
The first one is actually that James is going to hand deliver £1,000 cash to me.
Only 1,000 of all the amount you
10,000.
could have. There you go. Go higher.
keys to his
YouTuber
car.
money. But that was, I guess, episode 6 of the Crash Happy podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you did enjoy, please remember, of course, to leave a like, subscribe to the Crash Happy podcast channel on YouTube. And if you're on Spotify, do whatever you do on Spotify. What 5 stars, Apple Podcasts, do whatever you do on that. You keep telling us about it, so do whatever you do on that. And if you're watching on anything else, let us know what you're watching it on, because I don't know what any of the other ones are. But thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.